What's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and I'm going to be doing an Ancient Gear deck profile. So I'm really excited to do this for you guys because this deck is an amazing OTK deck that can summon out some insane boss monsters like Chaos Ancient Gear Giant, which can single-handedly OTK your opponent. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell near so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards, like getting your name description in a single video, getting a signed cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your patron. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing a single copy of Ancient Gear Golem. A single copy is totally fine for this deck because this card is just a really awesome combo piece and is a really cool monster to be able to put on your side of the field because it actually does piercing damage. We then play 2 copies of Ancient Gear Reactor Dragon. This card is an awesome 2 of in the deck and comes in extremely handy in this deck because if this card attacks, your opponent's spells and trap cards and monster effects cannot be activated until the end of the damage step, and at the end of the damage step, if this card attacked, you can destroy a spell or trap card that's on the field, which is a great effect to be able to pop cards like Gear Town or your opponent's cards. We then play 3 copies of Ancient Gear Wyvern. This card is basically the Stratos of the deck because if this card is normal or special summon, you can add an Ancient Gear card from your deck to your hand, except another copy of this card, which is a really good effect for this card to have, so you can get to the exact card that you need. We then play 2 copies of Ancient Gear Frame. I feel like 2 copies is totally fine. I don't feel like you need 3 copies of this card in this build, and it has the ability you can discard a card to add an Ancient Gear Golem or a spell or trap that specifically lists a card Ancient Gear Golem and its text from your deck to your hand, which is an insane effect to be able to use with this card. I love this card as a 2 of in the deck, but I feel like 3 just breaks too much. We then play 2 copies of Ancient Gear Hunting Hound. Ancient Gear Hunting Hound is basically like a walking polymerization, which is really good for this deck because if this card is normal summon, you can inflict 600 points of damage to your opponent, and if this card attacks, your opponent cannot activate any spell or trap cards until the end of the damage step like a lot of your Ancient Gear monsters share that ability. And once per turn, you can fusion summon an Ancient Gear Fusion monster from your X deck using monsters from your hand or field as fusion material, which is just a really good effect to be able to use with this card. We then play a single copy of Ancient Gear Box. This card is just a good extender as a one-of. It's a little bit of a brick, but it's still really good to have in the deck because it does extend your plays if you don't draw into it. This card has a great effect that if this card is added from your deck to your hand, except by drawing it, then you can add a Earth Machine type monster with 500 attack and or defense from your deck to your hand, which is a really good effect because we have a lot of monsters in this deck that this card can actually search. We then play 3 copies of Infinitrack Anchor Drill. Anchor Drill is a really good 3 of in the deck because this card has the ability, if this card is normal or special summon, then you can special summon 1 Earth Machine type monster from your hand in defense position, except another copy of this card, which will get you 2 monsters on your side of the field, so you can go in for Ancient Gear Ballista, which is just a great effect to be able to use in this deck to get monsters out of your hand and onto your side of the field. It also has a great effect that you can target 1 other machine monster that you control, and the level of both that monster and this card become the combined original level of those 2 monsters until the end of the turn, which is a great effect to be able to target another level 4 like your copy of your Ancient Gear Wyvern to make them level 8 so we can go in for some rank 8 plays, which is a great thing about this card. We then play 2 copies of the Super Express Train. This card is a great extender in the deck that has the ability that if all monsters you control are Earth machines, then you can special summon this card from your hand, and then during the end phase, if this card is in the graveyard because it was sent through this turn, you can target a machine type monster in your graveyard and add it to your hand except a copy of this card, which is just a really good effect to be able to use with this card. We're then playing 2 really awesome tech cards that we're actually going to be playing Guess That Card with. This is a really cool tech card that I'm playing in the deck. It's just super good to be able to add a really awesome combo to this deck, and it's a really insane monster to be able to use in this build. So we're actually going to reveal this card in 3, 2, 1, and don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and definitely hit that bell in there so you can become part of the notification squad because we're on the road to 100k subscribers. So let's go ahead and take a look and see what this awesome tech card is. And this really awesome tech card, don't forget to comment down below what you think it is actually going to be 2 copies of Magical Hound. And I actually have to give a quick shout out to one of my friends, Turtle Tactics, which you guys will definitely see down in the comments, who actually gave me the idea for this really awesome tech card. This card is insanely good in this deck, because it has the ability, if this card is in your hand or grave, you can target one face-up spell or trap card your opponent controls and return it back to the hand, and if you do, special summon this card, which is an insane effect to be able to use with this card, because this card is a level 1 tuner monster that can actually help you go in for cards like Baron de Fleur or even Naturia Beast in this deck by just using a level 4 plus this card to go into Naturia Beast, or using Ancient Gear Reactor Dragon, which conveniently is a level 9 to go in for Baron de Fleur, which can then pop cards on your side of the field like Gear Town, which is just really good. I love this card in the deck, and it's so helpful in this particular build, and I'm really thankful that Turtle Tactics actually showed me this tech card at the most recent regional in Tuscaloosa. So thank you so much, Turtle Tactics, for this really awesome tech card. We then play 2 copies of Therion King Regulus. This card is really good in the deck because it's a walking negate, and it's just an awesome card in this build. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to start off with a single copy of a 1-for-1. 1-for-1 is a really good one-of in this deck to be able to summon out your copy of your Magical Hound directly from your deck to your side of the field by sending a monster from your hand to the grave. We then play a single copy of Overload Fusion. Overload Fusion is really good so we can step into cards like Chaos Ancient Gear Giant by just banishing cards from our graveyard, which is just a really good effect. We then play 2 copies of Ancient Gear Fusion. This is the main way we're going to be summoning out our boss monsters from the extra deck, and this card is great because it lets you fusion summon an Ancient Gear Fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field's fusion material, and if you use Ancient Gear Golem or Ancient Gear Golem Ultimate Pound that you control as fusion material, you can also use monsters from your deck as material, which makes it super easy to go in for cards like Chaos Ancient Gear Giant, which is just a really awesome boss monster to be able to summon. We then play 2 copies of Clockwork Knight. Clockwork Knight is really neat in this particular deck because it actually searches out Earth Machine monsters, and it makes all monsters on the field become machine monsters, and all machine monsters you control gain 500 attack and defense, and also machine monsters that your opponent control lose 500 attack and defense, which makes it a little easier to OTK your opponent, which is really good. You can also banish this card from your graveyard and then discard a card to be able to add an Earth Machine monster from your deck to your hand, but you can only use this effect of Clockwork Knight once per turn, and you can only activate 1 Clockwork Knight per turn, which is why we're just playing 2 copies of this card, because we can actually send it to the graveyard off our copy of Foolish Burial Goods. We then play 2 copies of Ancient Gear Fortress. I feel like 2 is totally fine in this deck, and this card is just really good as a 2-of in this build, because if this card is destroyed in this spell and trap card zone, then you can special summon an Ancient Gear monster from your hand or graveyard. Also, you can't special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except Ancient Gear monsters, which is totally fine, but this card is a really good 2-of in the build. We then play 3 copies of Foolish Burial Goods. Foolish Burial Goods is really good in this deck, because we have plenty of targets in this particular build to be able to use with this card. I really like 3 copies in this particular build. Before I was playing 2 because I only had 1 target in the deck to be able to send to the graveyard, but now with Clockwork Knight in the deck, it just makes it so much better to be able to play 3 copies in this build. We then play 3 copies of Ancient Gear Catapult. Ancient Gear Catapult is a really neat 3-0 in the deck that while you control no monsters, you can target a face-up card that you control, destroy it, and if you do, special summon an Ancient Gear monster from your hand or from your deck, ignoring its summoning conditions, which usually going to pop cards like Gear Town or your copy of your Ancient Gear Fortress is just going to get you 2 Ancient Gear monsters on your side of the field, which is a great effect. You can also banish this card from the graveyard and then target a face-up card that you control and destroy it, and if you do, special summon out 1 Ancient Gear token. It's a machine type Earth level 1, 0 attack and 0 defense to your side of the field, which can help you go in for your copy of Ballista, which is really good. And you can only use 1 effect this card per turn, and only once that turn. We then play 3 copies of Gear Town. Gear Town's just really good to be able to pop on your side of the field, is it lets you special summon an Ancient Gear monster from your hand, deck, or graveyard when it does get popped, which is a really good effect. We then play 3 copies of Urgent Schedule. Urgent Schedule is just really good as a 3 on the deck because it gives you 2 Earth Machine monsters on your side of the field. And if your opponent controls more monsters than you do, you can special summon 1 level 4 lower and 1 level 5 or higher Earth Machine monster from your deck in defense position, but their effects are negated, which is not that big of a deal, and it's a really good card to be able to just put on your side of the field to get you 2 Earth Machine monsters directly from your deck on the field. This card is just really good in this build. So, that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to start off with 2 copies of Chaos Ancient Gear Giant. This card is insanely powerful. Comes out at 4,500 attack points, and it must be fusion summoned and cannot be special summoned by other ways by fusing 4 Ancient Gear monsters into this card. It's unaffected by spell and trap effects, and your opponent's monsters cannot activate their effects during the battle phase. And this card can attack all monsters your opponent controls once each, and it also does piercing damage, which is insane. It's why I said this card can actually OTK your opponent pretty much single-handedly. We then play a single copy of Ultimate Ancient Gear Golem. This is one of my favorite cards in this deck to actually summon to my side of the field. This is the classic Ultimate Ancient Gear Golem to be able to summon out to your side of the field. It has the ability that it takes an Ancient Gear Golem plus 2 Ancient Gear monsters to make this 4,400 attack point monster. It's just a really good boss monster to put on your side of the field. We then play a single copy of Ancient Gear Megaton Golem. Ancient Gear Megaton Golem is a great card to combo with your copy of Ultimate Ancient Gear Golem, and it's just a really good boss monster to summon in this deck. We then play 2 copies of Ancient Gear Howitzer. Howitzer does burn damage, which is really neat and helps you OTK your opponent a little easier in this build. It's unaffected by other card effects, and during your main phase, you can inflict 1,000 points of damage to your opponent, which is a really good effect. And if this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon any Ancient Gear monster you want from your deck, ignoring its summoning conditions, which is a really cool effect for this card to have. And plus, it's easy to put on your side of the field, but just using 2 Ancient Gear monsters to be able to summon out this card. We then play a single copy of Naturia Beast. This card is really powerful right now because this card can deal with a bunch of spell cards that your opponent's going to activate, and it's just really easy to put on your side of the field with your copy of Magical Hound. We then play a single copy of Baron de Fleur. Baron de Fleur is also very easy to put on your side of the field by just using a copy of Ancient Gear Reactor Dragon plus a copy of your Magical Hound, which is really good for this deck to be able to summon out this card just to give you a walking negate. I love that about this card, and it's just really good in this deck because once per turn, you can target 1 card on the field and destroy it, and it doesn't specify it has to be your opponent's, which is really good because you can actually pop your own Gear Talents and your copy of Ancient Gear Fortress, which is really good because then you can actually summon more Ancient Gear monsters to your side of the field and just help you OTK your opponent. We then play a single copy of number 97. Number 97 is really good in this deck as a 1-up because this card actually lets you summon out either a copy of number 100 to be able to summon it out at 9,000 attack points, or summon out a copy of number 38, which is a spell negate, which is just really good for this deck to be able to do, to either be able to OTK your opponent with number 100 or make number 38, which is just really good to have that spell negate in this deck. We then play a single copy of Dingirsu because on XZ summon of this card, it actually lets you send a card up from your opponent's control to the graveyard, which is just really good about this card to be able to just deal with the card your opponent has. We then play a single copy of Double A Zeus. Double A Zeus is just really easy to make with Dingirsu, which is just really nice in this deck. And then we play 2 copies of Ancient Gear Ballista. Ancient Gear Ballista is a definite 2 in the deck that if this card is link summoned, you can add an Ancient Gear monster or a Gear Talent from your deck to your hand. You can also target a spell or trap card that you control and 1 face-up monster your opponent controls and destroy that card that you control, and if you do, change that opponent's monster's attack to 0, which is just really good. It changes the attack if it's to 0 until the end of the turn, which is great because it's already getting you that Gear Talent that you can put on your side of the field. Pop the Gear Talent, reduce an opponent's monster down to 0, and then you basically have a monster that already has 0 that you can summon a really big monster onto your side of the field and go in for a bunch of damage. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed. This deck is super fun to be able to play. If you guys have never played an Ancient Gear deck before, you definitely should give this deck a try because this is really fun to be able to play, and it's just awesome to be able to summon out cards like Ancient Gear Golem, which is just such a classic boss monster. I love this card, and it's really cool to build a deck based around this card. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.